I'm going to go over some facts that you need to know if you're a U.S. citizen wanting to set up a company in Puerto Rico. And I'm going to give you other options that might even be better for you. The customs and immigration departments in the USA are also the same governmental organizations that exist in Puerto Rico, but not the IRS. Puerto Rico has their own IRS that's separate from the USA's IRS. Also, if you're interested in getting your income taxes to zero or want to get a second passport as quick as 3 months, go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and hit the button at the top of the homepage that says Apply with Us, and you'll get questions that will come up. Just fill those out, and then hit the bottom button that says Send Back to Us, and we'll see what we can do to help you get started and solve whatever problem you got. Okay, the cost to set up a Puerto Rican company is going to run somewhere around $8,000 US dollars plus the fee to do the tax work. There are two parts to this program. One is what's called Act 20, which is dealing with the corporation, and then you've got Act 22, which is dealing with the individual owner. You also have to file a form which is called 8898 to let the IRS know that you are actually moving to Puerto Rico and you're interested in getting involved with this program. Publication at 570, 2019 will give you the actual tax guide for individuals with income from U.S. possessions. All right, now there's a presence test that you're going to have to satisfy to make sure that you qualify for this tax exemption if you're a U.S. citizen. If you are a U.S. citizen or a resident alien, you will satisfy the presence test for the tax year if you meet one of the following conditions. Number one is you were present in the relevant territory for at least 183 days during the tax year. Number two is, in other words, you'd have to be in Puerto Rico for at least 183 days a year. But there are other rules that you can satisfy if you don't get that one. And number two is, if you're present in the relevant territory for at least 549 days during the 3-year period that includes the current tax year and the two immediately preceding tax years. During each year of the 3-year period, you must be present in the relevant territory for at least 60 days. All right, the other test too is number 3 is that you were present in the United States for no more than 90 days during the tax year. That's probably the easiest one to remember. Just don't be in the U.S. more than 90 days a year, and you're okay there. Or number 4 is you had income earned in the United States, so no more than a total of $3,000 US dollars, and were present for more days in the relevant territory than in the United States during the tax year. Earned income is paid for personal services performed such as wages, salaries, or professional fees. Number 5 is another test that you can qualify for, and that's if you had no significant connection to the United States during the tax year. Now, this means that your health insurance, things like driver's license, bank accounts, your residence, and where you vote should be in Puerto Rico. There is not a tax on dividend or capital gains on equities that are bought outside of Puerto Rico once you have moved to Puerto Rico, but any gains made prior to moving to Puerto Rico, you would be taxed on that capital gain portion that you made at the time you sell that equity, prorated for the years you actually had that asset before you moved to Puerto Rico. All right, now, if you buy an equity, for instance, in Germany, and that equity has a withholding tax on the dividend, you're not going to be exempt from that tax. When there's an automatic withholding tax, you're not going to get around that. That tax is taken out automatically from your brokerage company as soon as the dividend is paid out, and it goes directly to Germany or whatever country it is that you're buying the equity in. You also have to pay out a 4% corporate tax on your Puerto Rican company after deductions are taken out. The minimum amount that you have to pay out in a salary is the lower of $350,000 US dollars, or 1/3 of the company's profits. Any dividends from your Puerto Rican company paid out to you would be tax-free. The salary that's paid out at the high Puerto Rican income tax rates of 25% is if your income is more than $40,000 US dollars a year, but not more than $60,000 US dollars a year. If your income is over $60,000, it's 33%. So you can see that Puerto Rico does have high taxes, on their local income there. If you're self-employed and you pay the combined employee and employer amount, which is the 12.4% for Social Security tax, on up to $137,700 US a year of your net earnings, and 2.9%, which is the Medicare tax on your entire net earnings, you'll see that the two of those combined is over 15%. Now, this can work if you're retired and living in Puerto Rico or you have a business in Puerto Rico. There were changes in the Puerto Rican laws on Acts 20 and 22 on January the 1st, 2020. Act 22 is now part of what's called Act 60, Chapter 2, Incentives for Individual Investors. Unfortunately, it became more costly to comply with this now than it was before. The mandatory annual donation to Puerto Rican charity increased from $5,000 to $10,000 US a year. Most people don't know this, but that is a requirement. In April, the governor signed new legislation which raised the annual filing fee for Act 22 from $300 US to $5,000. So, this has gone way up. On the bright side, conditions for Act 20, known as the Export Services Act, now part of Chapter 3, incentives for export services remain largely the same. Now, under the new laws, if your Act 20 company churns $3 million US or more of revenue a year, you'll need to employ a full-time employee in Puerto Rico. The good news is that single employee can be actively managing the business, and it can be actually yourself. The acts themselves are not even called acts anymore. For example, Act 20 became Chapter 3 of Act 60 of the Incentives Code, Exportation of Goods and Services, and Act 22 is now Chapter 2 of Act 60 in the Incentives Code. If you're sitting on a significant gains already, Puerto Rico may still help you. If you spend more than 10 years as a resident in Puerto Rico, your tax obligation on the portion of capital gains you accrued while still living in the USA will also go down to 5%, so that's a big plus. Under the new rules, within 2 years of obtaining your Act 22 decree, you'll need to buy a property in Puerto Rico and use it as your primary residence, and you can't rent it out. That's a big key because you can screw yourself up if you do that. You'll also need to keep the actual property throughout the validity of your Act 22 degree. There is no minimum purchase price requirement for the property to actually, qualify for this. To be exempt from U.S. federal income taxes, you have to become a bona fide Puerto Rican tax resident. Okay, now I'm going to give you my evaluation of this program, and it is as follows. This is one of the best programs out there if you want to keep your U.S. taxes low. If you want to avoid all of your taxes, I've mentioned previously, then go offshore. And if you're a U.S. citizen, just relinquish your U.S. citizenship. Now, you could also keep your U.S. citizenship and just qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion and escape all earned income taxes up to a little over $214,000 US a year from earned income for you and your wife if y'all file jointly. And this is actually paid to both of y'all the income of $107,000 each, which equals $214,000. So you could, exclude up to $214,000 of foreign income a year, and get your a foreign corporation to pay you out this money. If you both have income of $214,000 US a year, and then have this foreign offshore corporation to pay out your income to you and your wife, you could escape all FICA taxes, since foreign offshore corporations would be exempt from paying the FICA tax. With a Puerto Rican company, you will still have to pay over 15% in FICA taxes, and there are high rates, as high as the bracket which I told you before, which is 33% on the mandatory salary income that has to be paid out to you. In other words, if your business is making money, you're not going to be able to get your taxes down to zero, your income taxes down to zero using a Puerto Rican company, but it would be better than operating in any state in the USA as far as taxes goes. The problem with this also is Puerto Rican socialistic population wants to become a state of the USA. They've actually been fighting to get this done. And if this occurs, Puerto Rico will have the highest tax rate of any state in the US if this gets through. even higher than California's state income tax, because Puerto Rico would not only have the USA's federal income tax rate, but also their state income tax rate, which is now as high as 33%. With this program, you will always be at the whims of the socialistic mindset of not only Puerto Rico, but also the USA, taking in Puerto Rico as a state, bringing this to an end. I've always said if you're a U.S. citizen, your best bet is to relinquish your U.S. citizenship. I'll always feel like that the foreign earned income exclusion, where you can work outside the U.S. and keep your U.S. citizenship, will more than likely last longer than the Puerto Rican tax incentive program, because this program that you're actually working in, which is another country, does have connections to the USA, whereas the foreign income exclusion would not. You'd be actually dealing with a foreign country. Also, using the foreign earned income exclusion and keeping your U.S. citizenship, you can get your income taxes to zero, but the Puerto Rican program will more than likely will never get your taxes down to zero as long as your business is profitable. Also, if you want to learn more how to legally get your taxes to zero, how to get a second passport as quick as 3 months, do 3 things. Hit the subscribe button to the right of your screen. You'll get new videos as they come out automatically. And number 2 is I'd like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, just put it below and I'll see what I can do to help solve your problem. And number 3 is go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and hit the button at the top of the homepage that says Apply with Us, and fill out the questions that come out, and then hit the button at the bottom that says Send Back to Us, so we can help you get started. We deal with about 74 citizenship by investment, residency by investment countries. One of these, at least, I think you'd be interested in pursuing. And thanks for watching. I look forward to talking to you on the next video. Take care.